Cowboys Nation, it's Friday, the eve of the first playoff game. I just need you to do one thing only. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the captain now. Let's go. And just like that, we're back at it, ready. Finally, forget tasting, smelling. We can feel it. I don't know, whatever term you want, man. Uh, Dom, I know we was in a space last night. We were talking about it. It's like, man, it's been so long and everything we've been through, what we're going through, and tomorrow we get some actual daggum football, ladies and gentlemen, Cowboys Nation. We are in the building. Finally, we're here. The starting line, if you will, of some games. Starting line, if you will. Hope everybody's doing fantastic this Friday. And thank you tuning in over here with us. And we're going to get into, we got some great topics tonight, man. We're going to do a little recap. We got a little Dak Prescott. I mean, my goodness, Dak's everywhere on everybody's tip of their tongue. We got to talk a little Dak. We're going to talk a little Jacksonville. And then, of course, stick around. The first Spoonie sermon of the year is tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It is tonight. With that being said, man, let me spin the block here. Dom, how we doing this Friday? Kids are back in school. You're a trick. Not yet. Oh, see, they're back up school up here for us. They started this Wednesday.
Yeah, kids are trickling back to school all over the place. But ours, we start Wednesday. So,
okay.
No, it's been a fantastic Friday preparing for that. But, man, I've been looking forward to this time with you guys as we talk Cowboys and get into this Dak talk. Because, man, everybody got a little bit of that D in the mouth, that Dak in the mouth. So it's like,
yeah, they got a lot to say. Spoonie, how we doing this Friday, brother?
I'm doing good, but I'm chewing some gum right now because I can't wait for tonight. I got a lot to say. See, again, I've been held back for so long that I'm ready to burst, and I will do that tonight.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, as they always say, don't pop too soon. Now, you got that sermon at the end. Don't pop too soon, okay? But with that being said, right on time. And remember, I told y'all 8:35. Look what time it is. I told y'all 8:35. My guy, Professor O's in the building. Professor O, how we doing this Friday, brother?
Oh, man, I'm doing good. Happy Friday, everyone. Captain Nick's checking in. All aboard. Let's go. Love that hat. I just got done with Felix's football practice, so I'm here. Let's go.
No, yeah, all good. I mean, never mind the fact that 10-minute coaching that you did last week, Blitzkrieg over there, that you was handling up with some business.
Yeah, we have a doubleheader jamboree tomorrow morning, which is pretty cool because it's actually at my old stomping grounds. So it's against my old high school at my Little League football field. So Felix gets to play there. So I'm excited about that.
That's
but have 2 games early tomorrow morning. And then last Sunday was his birthday, so we're having a birthday party tomorrow. So it's been pretty hectic getting ready for that. But we're good. Let's go.
That's what's up. All right, man, let's go ahead and get into it, man. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about training camp this week. Guys, we're getting after it, of course. And as we're going to pivot some of the talk about this camp until we get to the Dak. It's going to be about the third segment here in tonight's show. But I think for me, just same thing we've been seeing throughout camp, guys. Tit for tat. Divas has a good day. Offense comes back and gets at him. Divas bounces back on that. Here comes the offense back at him. I mean, they're just really waging war against each other, getting it in. And, Simi with the injury, we don't need to be a little more consistent. The last camp practice does really good in that front. We're starting to see Mozzie turn around and ramp up a little bit. Patience, as Dom has been preaching, needs to be had there, but we're seeing that. Sam Williams, my goodness, Sam is every game, every practice just seems to be going to another level. And then Mr. Tober, the thing for me, Mr. Tober, as good as he's been, and we've talked about, quite possibly the last padded practice, maybe his best. They literally talked about being his best practice of camp. So, man, just waging the war back and forth down between this offense and defense, man, this week between the offense and defense, as I said. I don't know why I repeated that 2 times. Don't worry about it. The captain. Leave me alone. Go ahead, Dom.
Yeah, man, I'm going to save the wide receiver talk for you guys, but it's been nice to see what's developing with our interior defensive line. And just imagine what it's going to be like here in the near future as our young guys really start to grow and develop. And I'm talking about midway in the season. We know on the offensive side of the ball, the offense tends to take about 4 weeks to really become a nice, well-oiled machine. But for our interior defensive tackles who need some of that experience to be able to get over the newness of the NFL, they're going to be great as far as that second half of the season. And what's nice is that we actually have a true rotation of interior defensive linemen that we actually like and that we enjoy and that we feel confident in. When is the last time, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, where you felt this confident in the defensive tackles? Like, really, just take that in. And so not only do we have Jonathan Hankins doing this thing, looking fresh and quick, even though, he's long in the tooth, we got our guy Mizey starting to come along. You see the strength. He's going to continue to get it. But then Osa Odigizua had a fantastic week this past week, and he's that year 3 guy. And we talk about that year 3 leap with defensive linemen. So it's looking mighty fine for us on that interior, and I can't wait to see those guys get into the season and really start to make that thing work. We know we got a strong defense, but who would have thought that the interior might push the edge players
Just a little bit
for being as equally good as a unit on this team. So quite excited about that.
And always and switching over to these wide receivers and what they're doing. And it kind of came to me as like, if Simi was doing this last year, we'd be pretty excited about Simi where he's at. But with everything else that's going on here with Tolbert and especially Brooks, even last padded practice, good one as well, man. Tough sledding over there. But boy, these wide receivers still bringing it as we into ending another week of camp.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all are excited about that. But it's just kind of crazy because Tolbert, we haven't seen it in game action, but based on his camp and offseason, he's had an incredible offseason. Jalen Brooks is way ahead of schedule for what you're asking for a 7th-round pick. That's kind of a throwaway, let's just throw a dart and see what happens type of guy. And he's had a great camp. And then KaVontae Turpin, like that's the one out of I guess Turpin and Brooks are probably the 2 guys that are a little bit more of a surprise in terms of what they're doing from a receiver standpoint. Now, we knew Turpin could do that because he did it in the USFL. He was a league MVP there. But we didn't see it last year. And we have a history of this as Cowboys fans, getting excited about players, seeing little small glimpses, whether it's a play here, there, maybe a certain package, or even an offseason where we hear this hype and then we don't get to see it happen. But KaVontae Turpin, they're like making an active effort to make him a receiver, not just a return guy. He's not just a Pro Bowl All-Pro returner. He's a viable weapon in the receiver room. So when you have all of that going against Simi, it's tough sledding for him. All of us like him. He's a great guy. And when you talk about intangibles, the size, the speed combination, like he would be a great addition to the room because he's different than what you have. He'd be your tallest wide receiver. He's one of your fastest wide receivers. He has that unique combination, but when everybody else is playing so well, you have to elevate your game too, and that's kind of where we're at. So it's not, there's no nail in the coffin for him. He has a few more weeks left, 3 games left to kind of show like, hey, I've not only gotten up to par with everybody else, but let me show you what I can do that's different from the room. But as of right now, it's kind of tough when everybody else is up the game. So it's cool because you hear this phrase all the time, iron sharpens iron, and you expect that from like a CeeDee Lamb versus Diggs or something like that. But when you see it, when it's wide receiver 4, 5, 6, 7, all pushing each other, and Jalen Moreno-Cropper is kind of the forgotten name right now. Maybe he's a guy that makes noise. It's funny because our first show, we were talking about Jalen Moreno-Cropper. We're talking about Simi Fehoko, talking about KaVontae Turpin. And we brought it up on the show like, maybe Jalen Brooks, let's see what he can do. And now we're like, definitely Jalen Brooks. Let's see what Simi can do. It's funny how things change in football. So.
Yeah, and of course, as we're going through the levels, right, we're in the just shorts, t-shirt, practice jersey, then the pads, a little bit of changes and separations, and then now the next step when we start tomorrow is, okay, now we've seen everything. We kind of have a pretty good lay of the land of what's going on. Now what happens when the live bullets start flying and what goes on there? And then, of course, when it brings us over here to, this running back position, we kind of understand Pollard. We kind of understand, Deuce Vaughn. And, we got to see some more of the fullback in front of Deuce doing some work as well. But, the Rico Dowdle and Malik Davis, highly contested, and a great week for Rico. And one of the guys, that we talked about earlier in other shows, right, was, okay, Malik's getting the carries early. Things are happening there. Then the pads came on, and all of a sudden, Spoon, now it's like, oh, but Rico, though, and what he's able to do right now.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy, he wants to see these young guys play. Listen, we all love Zeke. We all love what Zeke has brought into this organization for the years he was here. But Mike McCarthy want to see these young guys, no matter how much Jerry Jones keep the conversation open as far as Zeke Elliott. He wants to see these young guys play. And he's saying guys like Rico Dowdle, from his tenure here, he has seen him grow every year, and now he has a big chance to take over that number 2 role. We all know Tony Pollard. We all know what he can do from his emergence from last season. Guys like Hunter Lipke, he's getting some of the looks at goal line. Some of the, we saw him lining up at fullback where Deuce Vaughn was the starting running back at the point. So he's doing a lot of different looks. We going running back by committee, keep everybody fresh. That was one of the things that Mike McCarthy said when he first came out to this team, that he always felt that Zeke staff took in the amount of carries that he had. And once he got here, we saw Zeke and Pollard. So I'm so happy to see how this running back class, this running back depth's going to look like tomorrow's game. I want to see takes advantage. And listen, we all know what our man Deuce, a.k.a. I call him Mighty Mouse, a.k.a. Mighty Mouse, go out there and perform. I know Cowboy Nation is going to go get ecstatic, so I can't wait.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it is. Just the back and forth from this offensive defense, trading blows. Obviously, Vizcaino's out of here from the kicker. They're kind of protecting Aubrey. He's going to kick Saturday. He's not really kicking much over 40. When he does, he's going about 50% over 40 maybe. So we got to kind of, keep an eye on that and see what happens. But from the injury point, we talk about this a lot, is from the injury point, unscathed to a certain extent, right? We understand Donovan Wilson. Now, earlier in the week, right, we had a little situation with Tara Biada. She comes back. We had a situation with Mozzie Smith, tendonitis, gets the MRI. He's good to go. He's actually going to play Saturday. Then we're getting into, Izzy McCormick had the hamstring. He's back. He's playing. He's flying around again. Simi Fioku, the contusion. He's back. Now, of course, Jones is not going to be able to play because of the growing injury, but is looked to be back Monday or Tuesday. We got Schoonmaker finally, guys. We got Schoonmaker out here, and they ripped him up slowly. Then he got into 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, got a touchdown. So the second-round pick actually getting some things done. And all of a sudden, now we go like, man, we're going to carry 4 tight ends. How's this going to work out? But then the bugaboo happened. Dom, Spoon. The bugaboo happened to Mr. Chuma Dogba. Hyperextended knee. I haven't heard, and of course, we were waiting for the MRI results. I don't know if y'all got any information on that. I've not been able to see anything on the extent of the hyperextended knee, but not good as we're heading into the first, preseason game here. And then, of course, the Zach Martin situation, guys. So, Dom, I'm going to start with you. How concerned are you right now with this offensive line right now with the injury, the Zach Martin situation? Farniok's getting pushed to center now is where they're at. He's no longer doing the guard rotations. How are we feeling about this offensive line right now?
I think if you were to poll Cowboys Nation before camp started, offensive line would have been one of the top 3 concerns already going into camp. I always cautioned against that thought because for our starters, we seem to be fine. And when you compare our starters to the league, we have a top 10 type unit. But since then, you don't have your starting Hall of Fame right guard and Zach Martin with the holdout that's going on. That seemed like it may potentially go a little bit longer than even I would have thought. And it's definitely feeling uncomfortable right now if you're a Cowboys fan. And even if you're a player, you hope to see him come back. But who knows what's about to happen. So you went from feeling like we got a top 10 O-line. Now Zach's not here. Then Adoga seemed to be one of their key pieces that they were really going to focus on as being one of those depth guys. And that's been a concern of many fans is we don't have the depth. And here you go one of your key guys is now down, and for how long, who knows? And before that, I was already reporting to you guys that
Right.
out of camp, he didn't seem to be what I hoped he would be. But he still had time to turn it around, and then he had some flashes here, and there, and then now he's going down. So for me, offensive line, I still would say caution on throwing up a red flag, but I'm pumping the brakes a little bit, and I'm looking around to see, is there anybody in the league? Is there any little back end trade that you could potentially do to help solidify the offensive line?
Jump in there, Earl.
So, Dom, I have a question for you, and this is a player that it kind of just popped on my radar. I know he's been with the team for a while, but Brock is now suddenly, he's the right guard. Is it Brock Hoffman? Is that his name?
Yep.
Brock Hoffman. Did you get a chance when you were at camp to pay attention to him at all? I know he probably wasn't high on your radar, but what were your initial thoughts from what you saw with him?
What I
Answer that, and then I'll ask the second part.
Yeah, what I was impressed about by him is he was the one offensive lineman that was actually helping Awesome Richards the most in camp. He was the one pulling him to the side, working on the footwork, showing him like upper body technique as far as hand placement goes. What would happen whenever, you may not get your hands inside first? What's your next step? So those two seem to have chemistry, and we were all excited to be able to get Awesome Richards where we got him in the draft, and we think that he has a future for this team, whether that's keep him at left tackle, which is where he's used to, or kick him inside. It looks like they might kick him inside, but add some strength. So I saw a guy who seems like to be an ultimate teammate, trying to help the young guy out, which goes to speak to him becoming more comfortable now that he's been in the league for some time, though he's on the back end of the roster. But he's starting to get his opportunity. And this past week, he was one of the names where, as far as having a great week, he's one of the guys. So the fact that he's now made his way up that depth chart, it goes to shows the kind of hard work that he's putting in. So I like how he's growing up in camp. He's starting to show some strength. And if you're playing on the interior, you got big guys right across from you who are ready to eat your lunch. They're right up on you. It's just a different technique, a different readiness, different footwork that you have to have on the inside compared to the outside. So he seems to be a guy that can be a nice, solid, productive depth piece that you absolutely need in today's NFL.
But
Awesome.
again,
Thank you. That's why it's nice to have you, because that's somebody, I'll be honest, if I was at camp, when he's in on rotation, I'm probably not going to be laser focused on him because I'm not O-line guy, first off. And then secondly, I'm looking at him as a down the roster guy, but now that Farniok's moved to center, kind of changes things where now he's more important in the pecking order than what I was thinking. So the second question for you, and I would love to hear Nick's and Spoonie's opinion on this one too. So O-line is obviously a big question mark for the team right now. We know that tomorrow ups the ante for Zach Martin. So it's been $50,000 of practice. Game checks are $94,000. So you're starting to see a big increase. So if he misses the 3 preseason games, it's a lot more money than what he was missing just on the practices when you add all that together. So assuming he's not there tomorrow, next week, some of the more prominent names that are available for free agency are Justin Pugh, Roger Saffold, Dalton Reisner, whichever one it is, Gabe Jackson, and Andrew Norwell. So with those 5 names, is there a name that Monday morning, Tuesday morning, whatever it may be, after we see the preseason game that you're like, that's the guy I'm calling?
I hope not. That's where I'm at. I hope not.
Those are all 30-plus-year-old guys too. So.
Yeah, I would much rather this thing be we play a game and Zach Martin jumps on the plane and goes back to Oxnard is what I would like to see. Obviously, here's the problem about the game checks though for him, and this goes back to the restructure. So when they restructured his contract earlier this offseason, they slid him a $14 million bag. So that's pretty clear. That's all his. His salary this year's what did we don't I know I looked it up last night when we was in this 1.7. I think that's what I looked up and saw. It's only 1.7 this year. So he already got the $14 million bag. They could tax him for the 1.7, I guess, as long as he's holding out or whatnot. So I don't think there's as much pressure from the fines as if now if he didn't get restructured, perhaps now maybe that hits different. But the fact he got the $14 million bag, well, I mean, it's there now. So they can't go get that from him. And now
They still get the practices though. So they can get the game checks and the practices. So that those two combined can add up for more than what the base salary will be this year.
It's true, but at any point, if it hits that, he's got the 14 million. He said, "You know what? Peace. I'm retiring," and it don't matter, you know. And I think that's. I'll be honest. I didn't expect it to get this far. I just didn't. You know, it's head scratching to a certain extent, and I put this on Twitter. I just wonder. A little part of me wonders whenever there was some injuries that were happening. Now, of course, he did go out there and play tackle the first year that Mike McCarthy was here, and then he got the calf hurt and he was done. Then you circle back around, and there were some injuries again, right? And everyone's like, "Oh well, Zach Martin's going to go play tackle," and Zach openly in the media is like, "Yeah, that was a different situation. I'm a guard," and I just wonder a little bit, is that something where the Joneses, maybe even Jerry Seaman, which are one, but the Joneses enjoy the front office are like, yeah, but that situation, I wonder has rubbed them the wrong way or whatever it is about him. But the problem is you didn't take care of business in the draft. You're not really in a great position here to say we can move on without you. So yeah, this it's getting much uglier by the second is where I'm landing at. It's just getting much uglier for a situation I didn't think was really a big deal. But the further it goes, now I'm starting to think, okay, there's more going on behind the scenes than we originally thought this was.
Yeah, and real quick before Dom when he goes, I'll just give my 2 cents on that. I think the timing of when he announced his holdout is interesting because if you remember a few years, or more than a few years now, but during the draft, right before day 2 started, Jason Witten announced his retirement.
Right.
That changed the Cowboys' strategy for the rest of the draft, whether they immediately take a tight end or not. Like now you're like, okay, what are we doing now? Had Zach given any indication that he was going to hold out before the draft, maybe round 2 you're not taking Schoonmaker, maybe you're taking the guard from TCU. Maybe you're taking Steve Avila at that point. And that gives them more leverage. He decided to wait till after the draft, after the free agency, heading to training camp, like a week before training camp started, and that's when you start hearing, I think I'm going to hold out. I want a new deal, blah, blah, blah. So obviously he mentioned earlier in the offseason that he wanted a new contract, but it's kind of interesting how timing goes there. But it could be, that's a good point. Maybe they're saying, we have the leverage. We don't have to pay you anything. If you hold out, you're costing yourself money. It's up to you, but he's such a vital part of our offensive line in knowing that we all think we're in a Super Bowl window.
And he knows that too.
We're on the same page there.
Yeah, and he knows that too. And the other interesting part, I think I'm gonna go Reisner. By the way, I'm going to answer your question. I think I'll go Reisner is the guy that I would go with. He said it before. I know maybe a little medical stuff, but at this point, they're over 30, whatever. Reisner would be the guy I go with. But Dom, we had that. We got to hear that conversation between the coaches and Willie McClay there whenever they were picking Mazi. And remember, and going back to him waiting until after the draft, right here was. Well, we've invested in the offensive line. They were going to go after the Syracuse guy, Bergeron, right? That is what we come to find out. Well, now, if the situation happened before him, maybe they take Bergeron instead of Mazi, but that plays right into what you're talking about. Oh, because we actually know the conversation that they had during that pick at 26 during the draft.
Yeah, Bergeron was my guy too, man, because he had that tackle guard flexibility, and so I just thought he could have came in right away and immediately helped. But I was thinking about starting him at left guard and having Tyler Smith go ahead and be the backup swing guy. Well, Tyler Smith be the left tackle and let our Tyron be swing if he was willing to do that. But yeah, the answer for me would be if there's a guy out there that is available, the best one is Reisner. In fact, I'm still surprised that he's available. I know he had I think it was an elbow or bicep or something. There was something at the very end of the season that got him, but he seems to be the best guy on the market. And I think with his pass blocking ability, that's probably where he's best. And we can always use somebody who can help keep Dak's feet clean. But, man, we got to get something worked out with Zach Martin because ultimately this is going to hurt our chances to get over that hump. You need to be firing on all cylinders, especially up front and in the interior, because still when I see some of the few things in camp from Dak's tape that kind of concerns me is, yes, they're working on timing. Yes, they're working on the route running with the receivers and getting that thing straight. But the few times that he still kind of holds it, the footwork is poor because he's now taking those false steps backwards and trying to throw off the back foot. And I don't know if he has the most powerful arm to be able to push the ball downfield. And if that thing flutters any bit, then here we go with pop-ups, especially there in the middle. And we know that we've had a history of our receivers having some problems with that. But new receiving core, better philosophy, it seems, that whole PCP that Mike brought up.
Yeah.
But we need the interior to be clean. And so go get Reisner if this thing is really going to continue to be prolonged between the team and Dak.
And here's the thing, Spoon, right? Let's say we go get Reisner.
Right.
Boy, you might as well call this a Cold War then at that point between Martin and this front office. If they go out here and go get a guy like Reisner, then this we feel like it's weird now. Now it goes to another level if you bring a guy like Reisner in here.
Yeah, it definitely does, and that's the one. That's the thing that why I feel that by the time they go to Frisco in about a week and a half, I think they'll find some common ground and agree to a deal, and he'll come back in and get this thing going. Because if you know, again, this is me just guessing. If there's really concern, I've always said actions speak louder than words. Risner a guy would have been signed. Somebody would have been signed and been playing that garbage, but we haven't seen that. So, in my opinion, I just think this is right now where the Cowboys are getting to see these young guys step in his place, see what they have. At the same time, he's still working out with one of the better O-line coaches in Frisco right now, keeping himself ready. And I just think by the time they get over there, they'll work it out. Because at the end of the day, if it was something real bad behind closed doors, we would have saw some type of action. Risner would have been here, in my opinion, or maybe a trade or something like that. We haven't seen that yet. All we have seen is backers who are already on this roster continue to work on that position until whenever he decides to come back in.
10-4. You know, we all kind of went Reisner. Just a few interests me as well. Those would be out of this. Those would be the two guys for me that I would look at. Go ahead.
I would say Gabe Jackson's interesting. So he didn't have a great year for the Seahawks last year, but he's been a pretty good lineman. He's 335. So, I mean, from a size standpoint, now last year he had a bad year in pass pro. But I could see him maybe being a fit. But you got to think, too, if you sign an offensive lineman, especially a guard, if you take a tackle, you know, things are different because you have the Chuma injury and you can kind of justify that. And it's a different position. But you've already signed other players to contracts this, you know, very recently. You gave Diggs the big deal. You gave Malik Hooker a new deal. If you bring in a guard too, you are upping the ante in terms of pressure on Zach Martin, and it could go either way. You know, that could get really sticky or be a great move. You know, maybe he's like, okay, enough's enough. I gotta report. Or maybe he's like, you know, I'm just gonna keep my holdout. They think they can replace me. Let's see how Gabe Jackson does. Let's see how Don Risner does, or whatever. So just thought it was interesting, you know, especially when we're talking about fears with offensive linemen. And then Dom was there in person, so you got a chance to give us the Brock Hoffman update. So I thought it was a good time to bring that up. Thanks, guys.
No doubt. Salute to the guy. My guy Rogers says maybe he doesn't want to go through the grind of the camp. Maybe they have a deal in place already. Is that possible? Here's the problem with that. Because of the new CBA, all these 50K fines, every penalty misses, they're firm. The organization can't just wipe them away anymore. They're there. They're solid. That's just what it is. Now, could they do something within the contract to offset it? Sure. I mean, you can always do some lingo here and whatnot, but I don't think it's that way. I don't, the way the messaging has been, the fact that we saw Zach Martin go out and have his people go through the media and how the temperature's been, like I said, I didn't think it was much. I think it's very weird, and I think it's very serious. You know, at this point, I think we're getting to that point where it's like, okay, you know, I was at the thing, like the parents, hey, y'all cut that out, cut it out. Now I'm like, this is getting into that weird territory for me. Like, this doesn't feel good on the whole. It doesn't feel good.
when you
And
look at like recent contract stuff like that too, like when the Cowboys have asked a player to dance with them and they haven't danced, it hasn't went in the player's way in a while. That's something 4 or 5 years ago you could say, and probably Dak was the last one, but that's different when you have a franchise quarterback, and that still is contentious.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
when the Cowboys had an opportunity to sign Dalton Schultz and they tried to, and he didn't do it, they called his bluff and let him walk. I'm not saying they're going to let Zach Martin walk, but it has not worked in the player's favor in several years now for, kind of calling their bluff. So historically, you could say, yes, Jerry Jones would eventually do it. And I hope he does something with Zach, or I hope Zach's like, I'll just play through this and deal with this next offseason. But I definitely think this is more real than what we all expected. I think all of us thought he would have been back by now.
Well, like I said, hopefully they play this game Saturday and magically he ends up on the team charter plane back out to Oxnard and we can rest easy. But to be determined. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But definitely we've entered the weird stage with this offensive line, not just with Zach Martin, injury to Chuma, what this thing's looking like behind these starters as well too. Man, it's been a week in the Dak Prescott, the Rain Dakota Prescott department, y'all. It's just been a week. And right, we kicked off with, Shady and Acho, whatever Cho, coming down to camp to basically do a photo op, run media row, and then bounce before they even saw practice, and then went back there with the run tell that. But you're like, okay, you're talking about you saw Pollard, but you didn't see Pollard because Pollard wasn't there. A lot of that. And then this happened. And I sat there and I said, oh, the fix is in. I said, the powers that be at FS1 said, they sent the memo out to everybody. Because I watched 3 different shows on Fox, all 3 different shows. Their main topic had to be, though, the main point had to be, well, Dak just needs to play like he did his rookie year, and everything will be fine for them. And no matter how you wanted to spin it, and the 3 different shows spin it their own way, but that was the memo over there. That's how we're talking about Dak today. It went through that. So, and they want to use the first 2 years, then last season, then skip out. Just let's cut out that 18 through 21 side of things. So, guys, I'm going to spin the block. Spoonie, I'm going to start with you. Maybe you have the sermon still. I'm going to start with you.
To my gum.
Yeah. And Dak needs to play like he did whenever he was a rookie moving forward, not what he's grown into as a quarterback throughout his career thus far.
Dak needs to be who he has been these past couple of years. He has gotten better. Okay, even before the injury in 2019, during that hard COVID year, Mike McCarthy's first year as coaching, he was on pace, possibly to lead the league in passing yards. Okay, he was on pace. He was airing that ball up. That was the year that everybody was saying Dak is ready. What I don't like is he's not held to the same standard. I'm not going to push. I know I'm going to calm down. He's not held to the same standard. The standard earlier was Dak winning a playoff game, which he has. But when other quarterbacks who have not even achieved that, we don't hear nothing about it. To me, it's just the Cowboys have to be the center of the conversation for everybody to watch, for them to get the ratings. Because at the end of the day, when it boils down to it, you're telling us that the other 31 teams just doesn't matter. You're telling us that the other 31 quarterback just don't do it for you. But when it comes to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, this is what it's done for you. I have an issue is that you have former players who have traded their cleats for a suit and tie, who have become the very people who they were against when they wasn't playing. So no, I don't agree that Dak should be playing in his 2016. That was when Dak was a baby. That was when Dak was learning. A fourth round pick, having to be a starter. When Romo went down, Kellen Moore went down. Hey, there was conversation about Jamil Showers. Let's not forget about Jamil Showers. That's another guy I was competing with. At the end of the day, when it boils down to it, Dak has grown into a top 10 player, and which I don't know why every year we have to keep going with this. So no, Dak needs to be who Dak is. Last year he had a little setback with some injuries. He came back. There was some interception. Come on. We in 2023. where we have all the technologies in the world. You mean to tell me that every interception was Dak's fault? No, it was not. And they understand that. But we just want to read the numbers. Let's read the numbers. Let's read the stats without watching the game. And I'm sorry, those two you can't do that. If you're going to read numbers, because numbers can be misleading. Yes, they can. They can be very misleading. So you need numbers and you need film. And, these networks understand what's going on. They know what's going on. So, no. Dak needs to be who he was last year. He has won some games for us. Yeah, there was a lot of up and down. But guess what? We have a new regime. Kellen Moore's no longer here. I'm not saying it was his fault, but there were certain things that the team organization wanted to change. I'm glad for the first time in Dak's career, in my opinion, Dak has a real head coach with experience, who has a resume of helping other quarterbacks. Did we not forget the name Aaron Brooks? I know I'm kind of old school. That's Michael Vick's cousin. New Orleans Saints. Aaron Brooks came out of nowhere. Who was the offensive coordinator that year? Mike McCarthy. If anybody want to Google, that was he's the reason why Mike McCarthy was the hottest free agent coach along with Sean Payton after that season. So again, I'm happy that Dak has an experienced head coach who's gonna, in my opinion, make him a better quarterback.
Okay. Buying Dak needs to play like a 2016 Dak?
No, not at all. I think it's an interesting conversation the way that Otto framed it. However, I think he was. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it was not intentional, but knowing how the networks roll, it probably was intentional. When you say that, you're saying a quarterback who's now at year 8, is that what Dak said? When you have a quarterback that's evolved as a passer, Dak now versus Dak in 2016 are light years apart in terms of what he's confident. What his confidence is allowing him to do in terms of being a passer. Like Dak would have never dared, thread the needle as a rookie because he was like, I'm just not going to turn the ball over. I'm going to play within the system and just play Cooper Rush style, which we won last year. So there's some merit to that, well, the Cowboys could do that. They could be ultra conservative and, rely on the run game defense and just not turn the ball over and probably win a decent amount of football games. But the question becomes when you get to the playoffs and the lights get brighter and there's more pressure on you and the other teams are even better, is that sustainable? And I would say probably not. You could win games. You could beat the Bengals in the regular season. If you were in the AFC or you beat the Bengals in the playoffs with Cooper Rush being conservative, probably not, because Joe Burrow is going to rise to the occasion. So that's kind of where that comes to. But I do think maybe situationally there might be certain game plans where you're like, against the 49ers, we now have shown it 2 straight times in the playoffs that if you're not hyper aggressive against them and you just don't turn the ball over, you probably could beat them if you win the turnover margin in those games because your defense has shown consecutively that we can hold their offense in check mostly. However, I don't ever really want a head coach telling the quarterback, hey, just play safe. Hey, don't throw the ball to the open receiver. Hey, don't take chances because, as they say, you got to risk it to get the biscuit. I do think it's interesting. I do think it's very interesting right now the way things are progressing with training camp interceptions. So Dak's been the catalyst. Dak's the guy that all the media is running with, but you're starting to see more of that. Like that's a pressure point that media is kind of running with because right now there's a Twitter space going on right now. 49ers fans, and the headline of that is, are Brock Purdy's interceptions a concern? Because apparently they had a joint scrimmage with the Raiders and he threw 4 interceptions or something like that. And then when I look at it, I just click the trending topic. I see this from a writer from their local media. Bad throws from Purdy equal blemish. Bad throws from Lance equal glaring weakness. And it was based on another media member basically, saying Purdy's interceptions aren't that big of a deal, but when Lance does it, it's a huge deal. So I'm not comparing Dak to Lance, but I do think the media as a whole are comparing Dak to guys like Trey Lance, or guys that are like bubble quarterbacks as compared to what he should be as a true top 10 quarterback, where you're like, okay, cool, he does it every single year. Dak does not like to throw the ball away at training camp. He thinks it's a wasted rep. Whether he's, sacked or not in training camp, they're not going to bring him down. So he's still going to throw the ball, and he's not going to throw it out of bounds because he's giving as a receiver a chance to make a catch, testing himself to see if he can make that throw and all that stuff. Dak does this every single offseason. But this year, based on how things went last year in the regular season, you're hearing more about it. So it's just kind of interesting to see the way that the quarterbacks, like we heard about Jalen Hurts earlier this week, threw a terrible interception, according to Elliot Shorr-Park, who works for he's a beat writer. He's like the John Machota, Michael Gelkin, Pat Walker,
Right.
whoever you want to mention for the Eagles. So he mentioned that, and the Eagles fans just let him have it. They ripped him to pieces. Like, how dare you criticize our quarterback for throwing an interception? But now when it's the Cowboys, the tides have turned. So I just think it's really interesting the way that this is all being positioned. And we're even hearing things like so-and-so's quarterback is 25 of 25 in red zone drills. Like, it's
Right.
training camp. They're not, it's 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. You're wearing a red jersey. They're not tackling you. Who cares?
Well, unless you got Micah in
That's
there,
just
then Micah.
Yeah,
is
Micah,
tackling.
then it wrecks your entire game plan. So I don't know, man. It's just interesting. And then, like, last thing, and then I'll jump off my
Yeah,
soapbox.
go for it. No, go for it. Preach.
When the top 100 comes out, you see lots of people saying Lamar Jackson's way too low. Dak Prescott should never be ahead of him. Lamar Jackson's 1-3 in the playoffs. Granted, he does have an MVP to his name, so that carries some weight. But that was several years ago. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. Imagine if Dak won an MVP 4 years ago, for sake of argument, and was 1-3 in the playoffs. He would not get that same amount of respect or, apologists backing him, saying, well, it's everybody else's fault. It's just, kind of the pressure cooker that you have when you're Cowboys quarterback. So
Comes with the
when
star,
you're the
baby.
captain of the ship in the Cowboys, it's
Yeah,
gonna be different.
he's the captain. He comes with the star, baby. It's just, bro, like from the national media standpoint, I've never seen anything like it. I just haven't. I've never heard the national media go on a tangent of insert quarterback name. He used to play like when he was a rookie. Like I've just never heard it, and just the consistent, nonstop, whatever it is, and I'm just like, I mean, brother, are the Cowboys only guys in camp? I mean, and speaking of, Lamar Jackson, and I don't care that he threw 4 interceptions in camp. I don't care about that. But the fact that he did it in a practice, it's nothing. Silence. And I mean, obviously, we know we keep the lights on the NFL, guys. We understand that, ladies and gentlemen in the building. We understand that. We know we're going to be talked about. It comes with the star. As the star turns, whatever. We get that. The issue is, though, I've never seen it at this kind of fever pitch this early ever. And there was some high moments there whenever Romo was around here. This is like this is uncharted territory, how it's being handled right now. And I'm like, I don't really grasp it. Like every day, like I open up Twitter and I see stuff and I'm like, damn, they're still going. Here's something new they want to say. And I'm just like, what's she gonna do? But here's what they're doing. Here's exactly what they're doing. They had the photo op, but out there it talks. Oh, you're shady. Oh, I mean, top 3 NFL. Didn't even say NFC. He said top 3 talent wise NFL. Top 3 talent wise. Listen to how they're talking. Listen to how they're positioning it. Talent. They're hedging their bets because here's what they're doing. If the Cowboys go out here and win and do all that, it still won't be Dak. Well, he had all the talent. But now, if they fail, though, well, I mean, it's on Dak. Look at all the talent he had. They're literally planting the seeds now. So no matter which way this thing goes, by the end of the season, they can go back and point back here and say, see, we told you. Oh, we told you about this, that, and the third. And either way, and then a way to shame or get rid of the credit as well. My last point, Dom, and I'll get off my soapbox and let you roll, is simply this. How funny the media is in this stretch of, remember the first 2 years of Dak, and it was, well, he can't be a franchise quarterback. He can't open it up. He's dinking Dak. That's who he is. Only to get to this point now and say, whoa, sir, you're throwing this ball over the yard. Stop. Go back and dink and Dak this thing. What you doing? The goalposts consistently move, but what they're doing is hedging their bets no matter what happens. If the Cowboys fail, well, they were super talented. Dak was the problem. If the Cowboys win, well, of course they won. They were super talented, and Dak was just along for the ride. My time, sir. Go right ahead, Dom.
Yeah. In fact, they call him a bus driver.
There you go. Oh, yeah.
They called him a straight up bus driver his first year and put all of the success, early success that they had on Ezekiel Elliott, which we know Ezekiel was fabulous, and then the
Mhm.
offensive line being as good as it was. But at no point in his career have he really gotten the love that you would expect from the national media, at least, and even from still a faction of Cowboys fans who still remain, delusional about the kind of quarterback that Dak has been for the team. So it is shocking that other quarterbacks, other players in the league, who have done a fraction of what he's done in a short amount of time, or maybe had their quick rise, like quickly get crowned. Like, what's that quote from Coach? You want to crown him, then crown him.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like Spoonie, you
Without
might have
off the
to add
hook.
that. Yeah, you might have to add that. But like, it's like, man, we've seen this happen with other quarterbacks. Like, they have that flash in the pan. Like Kyler Murray, man, he had a great, what was that, 2020 season? Uh, about 25 touchdowns, over 10 touchdowns running the ball. Cam Newton had an MVP season, both throwing and running the ball. Heck, RG3 had us all scared thinking that he was going to be the next great, because how are you going to stop him? How are you going to stop the legs? Because he wasn't necessarily just looking to run all the time. And now you're seeing it out of Hurts. Like, why has Dak never had an opportunity to get that kind of love early in his career when he's had amazing stretches throughout his 7 years with us? But it just goes to show what's on the side of that helmet means a lot. It carries a lot of weight. And you were just talking about it in the space the other day. Like, people just cannot stand to hear that we're America's team.
Oh yeah.
We
I
didn't
didn't know.
we didn't,
Woo!
we didn't give ourselves that. We earned it. It was
Mhm.
given.
Mhm.
We won't go through the history of how that came about, but thank you,
Mhm.
Pittsburgh Steelers, for not taking it.
Yeah.
But man, because of that star, because of that phrase, because of what we're known by in the Super Bowls in the past, they just can't get over it. But no, my answer would be no. I absolutely do not want him to return to being the Dak of his rookie season. But yet, I do want to bring context to that. Do I
Sure.
want a quarterback that is thinking to play it safe in crucial situations when, sometimes you just can't thread it in there? Don't be that ultimate Brett Favre type gunslinger.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But do I want him to play it so safe that you are worried to hit a guy when it's a tight window? Absolutely not. Because we've actually seen Dak be one of the league's leaders in tight window throws. We've
Right.
seen how his receivers haven't gotten the separation like other receivers or quarterbacks and the receivers in the league. So, no, I don't want him to return to being what he once was. And it was like Spoonie said earlier, it's that maturation process that he's gone through. This is his time to completely take over the playbook. I don't need him only getting 60, 70% of the playbook. Open that thing up to him. Let him be able to be at the line calling audibles. And we've seen Dak actually play some of his best ball when he's the guy orchestrating everything. The
Right.
problem, though, with him having to do some of that ultimate orchestrating everything all the time is he had inferior guys who simply didn't know exactly what to do. So just imagine when you got receivers knowing exactly what they're supposed to do, where they're supposed to be, a simplified offense where, all right, there's no thinking. You have a quarterback who is as mentally sharp as him, who's got the physical tools to make it happen. And then you have a play caller in Mike McCarthy who's experienced, PCP, ready to go. Schottenheimer understanding the efficiency of a run game. Everything seems to be coming together. So we
Right.
need Dak to continue to progress forward like any other mature quarterback in the league who's in that second and even in the third contracts. It's your time. This is your time. This is your team. But there's a lot expected of him this year in the team. So you got what you need. This is the year where put up or shut up.
Yeah, and here's the other thing about it too. And again, they use his first 2 years, and then last season they want to skip everything else. Dak's not a turnover guy. He's not. He's top 10 all time touchdown interception ratio. It's the reason he's tied for ninth. He's not a turnover guy. So it's a weird narrative. And never mind the fact that it's funny because we had Aaron Rodgers who had 12 interceptions, and remember he had the thumb injury. Well, the thumb injury that caused some issues for him. Well, Dak actually broke his thumb and had surgery and whatnot and happened in that realm. So, yeah, again, it's narrative driven and what they're trying to set up here. It is what it is. Dak does not need to be that. Give me the 37-10 Dak over the 23-4 Dak and how he played in 21, and I'll be just fine and move forward when it comes to that.
I just think the ultimate quote, like if there's any quote you could ever cherry pick to solidify how the media perception of Dak is, it's Acho, funny enough, who we started the segment with, talking to Joy Taylor and her going right to the 49ers game and him saying, I don't think it's fair to just skip over the week before. He had a 5-touchdown game against Tom Brady and the Bucs on the road, and her response was, why not?
Mm-hmm.
That would just never be the case because I know that for a fact because Daniel Jones, who Greg Jennings just said was a top 10 quarterback over Dak, had an absolute stinker against the Eagles. But when they talk about him, they're like, well, he led a bad team to the playoffs in his first year with a new coach, and he had a good game against the Vikings, sorry. Forget the Eagles loss. So why not? That's the quote. If I was Mike McCarthy or Dak's teammates, I would pop that little blurb, put it right there in his locker, and every day when he goes to the locker, see why not? I'm like, I'll show you why. Like that's
that
why.
Part. Also, here's a key point for y'all that maybe that go around and spin the block on Twitter. And Dom, you kind of mentioned, I'm gonna circle back to it. I really didn't know this. I really didn't. And we had a space, and man, we had a lot of other fans. We had some Jets fans. We had, we had the Minnesota fans. Of course, Giants. Washington. Some other fans coming there, and different fans from all these different realms. Boy, and they would try to talk a little whatever. I really didn't know that America's Team moniker really burns in their soul still. It's crazy how much that bothers. I didn't, honest to God, truth, I did not know that bothered so many other teams' fans to this day still. I really didn't. But boy, after about 3 or 4 different ones who were not connected to the same fan base said it, I said, oh, y'all shouldn't have done that. Why would y'all ever do that? Oh, man, moving the rest of the way. Man, I'm hashtagging America's Team every single day moving forward to let them see it. I implore y'all to do it too, because guess what? I didn't know it. Maybe you didn't know it. It pisses them off. It makes them mad. You're not even talking noise. You're just dropping hashtag America's Team, and they hate to see it. So yeah, I made sure to drop that hashtag a couple times. I'll be dropping it again a couple times more tomorrow as well too. But neither here nor there.
About to do it now.
Yeah. Go ahead and drop one right now. Hashtag America's Team. Yeah, go ahead and throw it out there on Twitter, man. They hate it. I was like, yo, I didn't know y'all was so mad about it. Just throw it on out there for them and watch it burn. Geez Louise. I guess we'll put a pin on that for now. Again, I mean, next week I'm sure we'll hear more about Dak and everything else because they got to talk about something, and apparently that's the only thing in the NFL right now going on that they are talking about. But we do have a game, guys. Finally, it's like we've been in the Sahara Desert for 500 years, but we actually get some football tomorrow. Now we know a lot of the starters are not going to play, but first time the Cowboys have opened up in preseason at home since 2011, I do believe. So interesting enough, that's going down. They are going to play their starters, Jacksonville. Cowboys are not playing their starters, so we'll see. And of course, they're not going to play their starters very long. Maybe a series, maybe 2 at most. So maybe a little bit of a slow start for the Cowboys early, but then probably pick it up from there. So let me go over here. Jacksonville here. What are you looking for in this game? What do you want to see? Just where you want to land and see where these guys are going to get after here?
I mean, I'm just excited to see Cowboys, a Cowboys star on a helmet out there in action, which that feels exciting to see. But I think my answer is probably going to be the same as a lot of you guys. I just want to see the young guys. I don't care if we get blown out. I don't care if we have a competitive game. I don't care if we blow them out. It's preseason, so the score is not really that important. If quarterbacks take a chance to throw an interception, whatever. What I'm excited to see, though, are how does Deuce Vaughn look when people are actually trying to tackle him?
Right.
How does Rico Dowdle look as running back 2-3? How does Malik Davis look? Hunter Lipke, when does he get in the game? Is he getting in the last 5 minutes of the game? Do they bring him in the third or fourth quarter? Little small things like that from the running back room. I don't know if Luke Schoonmaker's playing or not, but if he does, how does he look? Really, the young guys, for me, it's the evaluation process. And if you're a draft junkie, the preseason is the ultimate football barometer for you because you get to see your guys, the guys
Like
you
this.
begged the Cowboys to draft, and you're like, that could have been us. I told you.
Yeah.
See, I told you. Or you're like, yeah, that's just bad circumstances for him. If he was anywhere else, he would have been.
I'm telling y'all now, ladies and gentlemen, I was never going to give up on this Pickens pick out here to the Steelers. He is not
never,
even a year later.
never,
I love it.
Never letting that go. But yeah, preseason football is fun because yes, it's more of a dress rehearsal. You do see some competitiveness. You'll see some big hits, like Brian Branch had a huge hit today in his game against the Giants. So it's cool to see that stuff. But again, the score is not really the important part, and how the offense looks is not really the important part, and how the defense looks is not important. And that's where fans kind of get lost in the sauce. Is they're like, why are we playing so conservative? I thought we were more of this Frisco, Texas coast, Gulf Coast, West Coast, whatever coast offense. Why aren't we seeing these drag routes? Where are all these slant flats and slant wheels I saw in practice? Teams do that intentionally because they're trying to put players in position so they can evaluate them. How does this player look when I do this? How does this player look in this situation? And they, that's what they're looking for. So my answer, long-winded or not, is I want to see the young guys in action. All of our draft class. I want to see Jalen Brooks. You had a great camp so far. Do you make an impact play? I want to see Simi Fehoko. You haven't had as great of a camp, but haven't had a bad camp. Do you step it up now to up the ante? So, that's what I'm looking for, the young guys.
And that, of course, it's a countdown. It's simply the countdown. Let this game look bad. The Cowboys suck. Oh, the fan base. Oh, we're not doing nothing. Look how this went and everything else. I think you wrapped it up perfectly about what it is when it comes to this preseason game. So I want to pivot to the next part here. I'm gonna start with Dom. Let's do one guy offensively, and we'll come back to the defense. Let's go one guy offensively that you're literally going to have that zero focus on. Not obviously you want to see a lot of guys, but Dom, who's the one guy that you're zeroing in offensively here against Jacksonville for the Cowboys?
Matto will always express, man, can we stop using top flight draft picks on offensive line? Like, you got to find a way to find an offensive lineman without using a premium pick. When you look at the outlook of this team, the way that the roster is structured, what's going on with Zach even, you're starting to think next year in the 2024 draft, are we not going to have to use a first or second rounder on another offensive lineman, especially an interior O lineman? So the guy that I'm looking forward to seeing, because if he can pan out being a second-year player, undrafted guy, Cleveland took him, they let him go, we picked him up. We talked about him earlier.
Yes, sir.
Hoffman.
Okay.
That's the guy. Like, we've heard about him in camp. Now, this is your time. Let's see what you can do. And preseason games are important to guys. Even some of the greatest players that we've had in the league had to cut their teeth and find that spark and capture the eye of a coach from preseason. Like Terrell Davis got one of the best stories about being on special teams in a preseason game, flying down, making a big hit, and that's really what helped him solidify a spot. Same thing with Uncle Shay. Like, it's about the preseason. So don't be surprised if Dallas may be finding a diamond in the rough type, undrafted guy who can step in and do some damage as an interior offensive line. So Hoffman is the guy that I'm looking forward to.
Hoffman's the guy. Hey, look, and so far, I mean, he got Farniak's ass up out of guard. Farniak's the center now. So there is some things trending that way because of what he's done thus far, for sure. So it'll be interesting. All right, Spoony, the one offensive person that you're going to be zeroed in on tomorrow watching Jacksonville. But you got to unmute.
There you go.
Hey, all right, let's go.
It's kind of a combination.
No, one. There's no combination, Spoon. Y'all,
all right.
Oh, Spoon always wants to cheat. Oh, he always wants to cheat.
Always.
He's already doing the Drake combination. No, one. Come on.
Nah, Deuce Vaughn. I want to see Deuce Vaughn. I want to see how this running back situation look without Pollard there. Listen, we all know Zupa's a very good running back. His height is something else, but I think he could take this team to a different level. It's something about his game, about short running back. We all know one Hall of Fame or future Hall of Fame, in my opinion, in Darren Sproles, the impact he made for the Saints and the Eagles team, and I feel that Deuce Vaughn could do something similar, maybe even more for this team, especially for the things they want to do with him. So I want to see how they use Deuce Vaughn tomorrow. I know it's the backup, but it's not the number ones. It's basically number 2s and number 3s. But I just want to see him play and see what they got in mind for him.
10-4. I think I know where O's going to go, but
I don't think you know where I'm going to go. Because
Oh,
my guy is a Dom guy. I'm going offensive line 2. Matt Let's go. I want to see Matt Let's go because they were excited about him last year. He had the shoulder injury, missed a lot of time. They were excited about him again this year. Missed a little bit of time for sickness, not anything major, luckily. I want to see, do we have a legit swing tackle on the roster right now? Or
3, baby.
if Tyron gets hurt, are we shuffling the entire offensive line, moving Tyler back to tackle? Like, do we have to go that route? I want to see, do we have a tackle on the roster? And granted, I won't know that tomorrow. None of us will.
Right.
But can he start to plant the seeds that, like, yeah, I'm legit. I can play right tackle, left tackle, whatever you need. Matt Waletzko is my guy. I'm really interested to see what he does. Because if he doesn't, if he has a rough preseason, then maybe instead of talking about offensive guards, we're talking about offensive tackles, like who's available in the swing tackle market, and I don't want to have to do that.
Very fair. Oh, swooped in and got mine, but that's okay. I always stick with the backup. I got
nice.
the backup Blicky.
So you just picked who you thought I had.
I thought you was gonna go one of the wide receivers, but I didn't think Brooks though. I thought you might go with Turpin just to see, since he's not gonna let him return and see what he brought to the table. But neither here nor there. I'm gonna go with Rico Dowdle. I want to see the next level. I want to see what he can do. Obviously, he has made a jump here, and this running back too is a heated contested battle. So I want to see what he's going to bring. We know he stayed around here. We know the Cowboys like him a lot. The injuries have been an issue. We've seen him kind of maybe, I won't say separate here since the pads came on, but things are starting to go his way some. Can he continue that here against Jacksonville in the pad, or underneath the lights, I should say, and moving forward? So I want to see what Rico Dowdle does, because I think a lot of people have kind of just reserved that it's going to be Malik Davis, or maybe it's just going to be Ron Jones. Although we know the suspension, the injury, we'll see. So I think it's a big game for him, in Rico. So I'm definitely paying attention to Rico and what he's bringing to the table.
Just out of curiosity, Spoonie, don't give us the answer why, since you already gave us the answer for the other player. Who was the other player you were between? You said there were 2. Just give us the name.
Hunter.
Okay.
Oh, Lipke. Okay. Yeah.
No,
I'm excited to see him too, but you already know. He's on the team. I don't care. Anyways, let's swing over here to the defense, man. Let's go defense, and we'll go the other way around. Oh, defense, the one guy you're going to look at here on defense.
I hope I'm not taking your guys, but
it's okay.
Jabril Cox. Right. So Jabril Cox is another guy that he looks good. He looks back from the injury from all the reports we're seeing. He's making impact plays.
McCarthy even said that, right?
Yeah, mini camp, we're hearing about it in training camp. Like, he looks good. So I'm really excited to see him, because I wasn't really factoring him in the linebacker equation this year, because I was thinking, we're going to play a lot of nickel and dime. We have safeties that can play linebacker if we need to. What if we have a linebacker that can play linebacker when we need him to? That would be kind of cool. So I'm excited to see him.
Tip or Spoonie, what's the one guy you're paying attention to?
DeMario Overshown.
Oh, okay.
I really want to see him play. All the great stuff coming out of camp about him getting the green dot, which is a big responsibility, especially for a rookie. Every time McCarthy come onto the press conference, he's when his name is mentioned, he speaks with excitement, talking about this man keeps making plays. Every time in practice, he does something. He had 2 interceptions in one practice. One was a nice diving catch. He's so athletic. I just want to see DeMario go full tomorrow.
Yeah, and of course, Overshown. Yeah, DeMario. But the thing with the Overshown as well, they was asking about the preseason game. He goes, it's a real game to me. He was very serious about it. So I'm excited to see him as well, too. Dom, who's the one guy you're paying attention to here on defense against Jacksonville?
I'm going to slip in something real fast.
Slide on in there.
And it's not going to take too much time.
All right, pause.
I have a feeling Stephon Gilmore is going to get an extension by the end of the year with this team.
Okay.
I just think with just his professionalism, his leadership,
was brought to the room.
But then also you still got to bring the performance. And I think his performance is going to go great. He seems to love it here. So those DBs, man, they're meshing well. So I'm just now trying to figure out who's going to get cut. So when it's the defensive side, I'm looking at cornerbacks specifically, like who's going to step up. So the guy I'm looking for, I don't think he's going to have a chance of being cut, but I want to see how well he performs. Eric Scott Jr. Like when you watch him in camp, you see the movement ability, the skills. He's always in the hip pocket. But now it's like, can he get to the point where he can, pass breakups? Will he get his hands on the balls to where he can now get interceptions? Will he become more of a playmaker at that spot? Now, granted, you'll take a sticky guy or you'll take a playmaker. Well, heck, give me a Trayvon Diggs or give me the guy that, fans tried to run out of town because he was a great cornerback, but yet didn't get interceptions.
Right.
And Jones, I'll take either. He seems to be more Jones-like right now. He's always there. So I'm looking for him and what he brings tomorrow in that game.
10-4. All great answers. All great answers. I'm going to stick with the cornerback, though. I'm sticking with the cornerback position here, Dom. And a guy that, is entering year 3, and they have really thrown him to the wolves once again with just all the reps. You were out there and saw him. They were giving him all the reps. First team, second team, third team. The pads came on. He's still bringing it. First team, second team. I'm looking at Nahshon Wright. I'm ready to see where he's at year 3, how he's elevated. Now, can he take that and go into the game here and show us some things, from what he's been this season? And possibly, we know he's had moments in prior camps, right? He's had moments in prior camps. Probably the strongest camp he's had as a professional football player. And it's a guy that I talked about a lot of. Him and Simi Fioka were the two guys I said, man, this is the most important training camp of their professional football careers this year before they got there. It just really was. And Simi a little bit more consistent, right? We need to see something, but the lights are on now. But Nahshon, I think, has been very good. And I think he separated himself when we talk about, because remember, obviously Kelvin Joseph was the second round pick. He was the third round pick. And there's a lot of moans and groans about Nahshon being the third round pick. But I don't think it's close. I think Nahshon's put a separation between him and Kelvin Joseph at this moment. And now I want to see him underneath the lights and what he brings to the table with this camp that he's had so far. So Kelvin Joseph for me, Nahshon Wright for me is who I'm looking forward to and zoning in on tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
I was about to say you threw a curveball at us. I was thinking you were going to go right the whole way, and then at the end threw Kelvin. I was like, whoa, did I miss? It's kind of interesting. John Machota just had an article on 10 guys to watch, and he mentioned Nahshon Wright and Eric Scott Jr. as guys that are fighting for that last cornerback spot, and then mentioned Kelvin Joseph as the guy that's turning down that they like, but is he doing enough to, warrant a roster spot? And then I put it in the chat. If you're a believer in still supporting guys after they leave the Cowboys and still rooting for them, Brett Maher looking ugly. He just missed a 47-yarder. So if you look at what he did today in the last playoff run, and then the Commanders game before that, he's
right.
Like 6 out of 7 kicks or something like that now. So
yeah, ugly, super ugly.
Chat, I saw
Kelvin Joseph,
Mozzie Smith, Overshown.
Sure.
Eric Scott Jr. seem to be the big names people mentioned.
Big facts. And it's awesome to see that Mozzie, after having the MRI low tendonitis, he's going to line up and play. We'll see how much, but the fact he's going to dress out and play is a great sign from him, medically from that knee stuff. And also, too, Kelvin Joseph, I just think if he can't, right, it's to me, it's beating out CJ Goodwin to make this team. I think that's the path for him. I don't think from a legitimate cornerback standpoint, as we're talking about, right, Scott, we know Jay Lou over here with the pup, what's going on there. I think it's got to be the special teams, and that's his way to get here. And if not, I think, we ought to be looking at the end. Look, and I'm looking, I always campaign on what these guys go out here and do well. It doesn't help the Cowboys that the second round pick is going to be cut maybe in year 3. So, go out here, your opportunities are in front of you, walk through the door, young man. The opportunities in front of you for you to go out here and perform, and you need to go do that. So, look, man, we're not doing no predictions or anything. Man, this is preseason. I know there's some people out here, they bet on preseason. That's wild to me. That I'm like, no, I'm not doing any of that. Anything else? And I'll open it up here. Anything else you want to talk about this? Obviously, I guess kicker. We didn't talk special teams. Kicker. Do you want them to maybe lay up and make him kick something long here against Jacksonville?
Yes, 100%. So they said he had his first perfect day, which was great. He was 9 for 9. Maybe not having Vizcaino there to compete with was
Right.
that catalyst he needed. And then they showed it was like 30 yards, 31, 32, 32, 34, 36. I'm like, he's kicking like high school level field goals. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
So yes, this guy has never kicked a 50-yard field goal in his life in a game. Never. Didn't play high school football, didn't play college football. In the USFL, he's 0 for 2 from 50 yards out. Does that mean he can't make it? Absolutely not. That's a very small sample size. But I want to see him kick a field goal of that distance. And then we also know the USFL attendances. Some of the teams had less than 1,000 fans at their games.
Right.
The highest attendance they had at a game was like 24,000 or something like that. So what do you do when it's still preseason, but you have NFL Network watching you? You have thousands and tens of thousands of fans there. Even at a preseason game, you're going to have 50, 60,000 fans there at the game, if not more.
It hits different.
Can you make a field goal of distance there? Because the last time we saw you in action, like in a pressure cooker moment, was the blue and white practice, and both you and Vizcaino, fumbled the bag to the point that they cut one of the two. So I'm not saying kick it on third down or anything, but I would love for them to get him in a situation where he has like a 48 to 55 yard field goal, maybe 48 to 52. We'll say more reasonable, realistic range.
Right.
Can he make that? Because if he makes that, then maybe there is some optimism that he could be the answer. But if he can't make that and he hasn't done it prior and he's only kicking 30-yarders, like I feel like they're setting him up to fail. So, yes, I want to see him make a field goal, and I would like it to be at least 45 yards or further.
Okay. Another guy, special teams, since we're hearing special teams. He's a safety. He's probably going to do the returning. And we didn't give knowing P team in defense as well, too, has had a pretty good camp so far. Mr. Wanye. I mean, he's probably going to he's been working with special teams. I think he's going to get some opportunity to do some returning. And a guy maybe you want to pay attention to here, if you've not heard about him, Cowboys Nation, he's had a great camp. Wanye Thomas. I mean, Dom Wanye, what he's been bringing to the table thus far, he's probably going to be a special teams guy here in Jacksonville, and also some defensive stuff there, too.
Yeah, and whenever you're thinking about who might have the hit of the night, who the candidate may be, he's one of those types. Yeah. So, yeah, he might bring a spark by bringing a big play like that or a return. But no, you're absolutely right. I forgot even to mention that one. That one went on my radar because Eric Scott just elevates a little bit beyond it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a very good name to bring up to be looking out for tomorrow to see if he can shine.
Big facts. Of course, man. Hey, man. We know the safety is deep, though. But again, like I was able to plug him. I was like, I can plug him here in special teams, though, because again, he's been doing some of the fielding, some of the stuff. We already know that Turpin's not going to be used to return any kicks in preseason. They're working with wide receiver. So another opportunity for some of these younger guys to get out here, put some good things on tape, and see what they can do. Putting a clip there, or a top, I should say, there on the Jacksonville game, ladies and gentlemen. What's that game? 5? Is that 5 Central tomorrow? 4 Central? What time is that game tomorrow?
4 Central, 5 Eastern.
There it is. Yeah. Boom. 5 Eastern, 4 Central. Can't wait. Speaking of can't wait, I just looked up and down here, guys, ladies and gentlemen. That's the last topic. Only one thing left. One thing and one thing only. For the 5th season, for the first time this year. I will caution. I don't know. I'm gonna turn my volume down a little bit. I never know here. I don't know. But for the first time this year, it is time for the first Spoonie sermon of the 2023 season. Spoonie, the floor is all yours.
Yes, sir, Cap. Before I start, I just want to call out Jerry Jones. Mr. Jones, don't worry. I'm not gonna say I'm your son or anything like that. Even though you put a picture of me and you together, you may see some resemblance. But Mr. Jones, I want to say this to you. We understand you care about this team so much. You care about the star, Americans. You care about this Dallas Cowboys, the fans, and all. You care about all of us. But the one thing I need you to do is this: to check your quarterback. You should not allow animals onto the training camp facility, especially squirrels. We don't want squirrels jumping on our quarterback's nuts. We don't. So understand, Mr. Jones, no animals. Put that sign out there. We don't want no more unwanted visiting squirrels. Please. Now, for my sermon, Cowboy Nation,
Oh,
I'm here to
server.
make
Okay.
you understand. That's my job. My job is to make you understand. So hashtag understand this. We at war right now, in case you didn't know. You have the national media out there calling out this team. You know why? Because they see something. They understand something. They understand that this team right now is formed, is built, is put together like an old machine to go out there and do what they haven't done in a long time. This is why they got nothing else better to do than talk about the Cowboys. See, every morning we are full of shit. Every morning we get up, we go in that bathroom and release. But you see, they release their shit all over camera throughout the day. And they don't even believe in their own shit. They just don't. But you see, Cowboy Nation, when we at war, this is the time to come together, to understand that the lies that are put out there in front of us is just bullshit. You see, on this panel right here, what we got right here is Cowboy fans. We have independent fans who understand what the fuck they're talking about. Who's gonna give you the insight, the news that y'all need to understand. We don't bullshit. We leave our shit in the toilet every morning while their cavities get all throughout the day. Now, I don't know. I don't understand what it is, y'all. I really don't. You know, when I look at Dak Prescott, I tell myself, we all have a Dak in us. The things that he has dealt with off the field, we all might have had some type of experience. So he's a role model. But when you got folks who had history doing the wrong shit, the wrong things off the field, you're gonna come here and talk about a man who's making it, who's doing the damn thing, who's showing it? We don't care if you was a cheerleader for an NFL team while they won a Super Bowl. Wow, that's beautiful. But you had nothing to do with it. We don't care about a player who's maybe from Texas who couldn't even make it on the team, but that's a fourth-round pick. He's overcome the biggest thing in being the quarterback for America's team. Understand that shit. See, today's war is shit because of the shit we've been hearing all damn week. So, Cowboy Nation, I'm telling y'all, I'm not telling y'all. I'm demanding y'all to stand the fuck up. Close your ears to the bullshit and open your eyes to what the fuck is in front of you. Understand this. This is a season that we're gonna overtake everything. Whether it's the film, whether it's a network, whether it's the whole damn world. Why? Because we are America's team. Once again, you leave your shit in the toilet, you don't carry with you all day long like some of them folks are doing right now. Understand this.
Spoonie,
And there it is, ladies and
hilarious.
gentlemen. I told you stick around is going to be worth it. We might got demonetized, but that's fine. Hey, we got to get it out there and let it be known. But guy said, hey man, Spoon on Roy's, man, he goes, they love the guy. Also, somebody earlier said it wasn't Maher that missed the kick, by the way. I don't know. I saw it earlier. I don't know what it was.
Maher missed the first one, and then Elliott Fry missed the
Elliott
second.
missed that second one.
So
Gotcha.
both kickers missed for them.
No. Sounds like us. Sheesh. We'll see what happens come Saturday. Oh, man. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all as always for coming through. Again, man, clap it up for Swoon, man. Hey, man, clap it up and thank for Swoon, man. Hey, Swoon. Yeah, you brought that heat. You know, I mean, four-letter word. I mean, shit and bullshit and all the other superlatives. I mean, you were ready. I know before we came on, you was like, I'm built up. I got this gum. I'm waiting. And you did a good job. I thought you might lose it through the deck segment. You held it tight, and then you unleashed here at the end, my friend. What great way to start the segment of Smoothie Sermon off this year. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. Y'all know the drill as always, man. Make sure you hit the sub, hit the like. Absolutely make sure you share this content out, man. We're going to be rocking all year long. More Sweeney sermons, more O dropping knowledge, more Dom. I saw Dom in real time. I said, let me put Zach Martin behind me. Whatever it takes to get Zach Martin back in here, Dom. I see you working over there, brother. Yeah, come on, baby. Come on. And of course, it's your Caption, El Caption. Man, tomorrow, man, we're back at it. Last word, Professor O.
I want to give my last word to Spoonie. Spoonie, I'm going to take my hat off to you on that one. Spoonie dropped so many quotes in that one little Spoonie sermon. He said, you leave your shit in the toilet, you don't carry it with you all day. What else can I say, Spoonie? Well done.
Words to live by. Spoonie, a last word from you, sir. Not a sermon, just last word here before we get up out of here.
Dominate, celebrate, protect the star, respect the star.
That part. Shout out to the Wrench Gang back in the building, man. We back 23 seasons on deck. Shout out to the Wrench Gang around here. Mods Extraordinaire, Mendoza, TC, and them. Weed, the whole nine. Dom, last word for you tonight, good sir.
Man, hashtag understand this.
Yes, sir. The season's now here. Now the season's here.
How we should have just ended it right after that. How you follow that up? That's the first time I've had an opportunity to be on air and hear a Spoonie sermon. You know, this is my first. So, woo-wee. This boy, you had me laughing, crying, ready to run through a wall too. Come on now.
Hey, get ready. Hey, season just getting started. There's gonna be a lot of that moving forward, man. Suits, everybody, be safe. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the games this weekend, and of course, check back in with us next Friday. We'll be right back here getting after it. And of course, Twitter, man, all that right there. Every single name, that's our Twitter handle. You can find us over there on Twitter and interact with us on Twitter as well too. So we're building up our following and doing things over there. And I guess I saw somebody said something about a 6 hour space. Pause. No, not a 6 hour space, but I might have a little time to run a space after this. Okay, so y'all be safe. We'll holler at y'all next week.